on my crazy mission to try to change the world one workplace at a time. And I'm back with my series on the old HR is dead. The world needs good HR now more than ever. And I truly believe that. And as every day and every week goes by, to me, this becomes even more and more important. The old HR is dead. Just mourn it, get over it, but then get past it as quickly as you possibly can. The ideas that got us here from an HR perspective are the reason why we're here in some ways. And we just need to innovate. We need to think very differently about the whole value proposition around HR in general. And certainly you should be thinking about the value proposition of yourself as an HR professional and your HR function to your organization and to your business. And we know right now that the world needs good HR more than ever, right? We are in the middle of a pandemic. We are in the middle of an economic downturn / crisis, depending on how you look at it. We are in the middle of a race diversity and inclusion crisis. We have killer hornets and sand plumes coming from the Sahara if you're in Florida. Like every day, it seems like there's a new challenge that's thrust upon us all to try to figure out and try to navigate that paradox. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw aliens over the White House next week, because that would all kind of make sense, right? That would be like, yep, that's 2020. Yep, that totally makes sense. So the good news is that we're halfway through it. And really what you really should be doing right now is really thinking about how you can add tremendous value to your organization in any or all of those areas. And there's a lot of different ways that we could take this episode today. And I really don't even know exactly where I want to take it today. And by the way, if anyone wants to, join me live to share their thoughts, share their insights, ask questions, feel free to do so on that link up above. But I do know one thing today coming into this episode is I'm pissed off. Actually, I'm pretty pissed off. I'm pretty agitated. And I hope that you are agitated as well. And I'll come to that in a minute. So I'm empathetic, and I understand that a lot of you out there have worked tremendously hard to navigate all of these issues, crises to which we are facing in your organization and as a society as a whole. I know you've worked extremely hard transitioning people from the office to working remotely, technology, policy changes, legislative changes like the CARES Act, safety issues, both having folks leave and then return to work issues. We could go down the list, benefits issues. There's a long list of things that I know that a lot of you have been working very, very hard to address in your organizations. And so I do want to thank you for that. And don't misunderstand the rest of this episode. Okay, so that doesn't go unnoticed. However, that is not enough. And the evidence of that I'm seeing is I'm hearing a lot of people who are in HR being let go by their organizations. So they were able to help navigate through all of these initial things with the onset of COVID-19. And obviously, their organizations are at a point where they are having to let go of people. And we all know, right, if we're going to be really honest with ourselves, that usually one of the last teams, functions, departments to be downsized or to let go are salespeople. Although I was speaking with somebody this week who's in their organization, they've downsized their sales force. So, that's basically going out of business. You might as well just hang a shingle out the door saying out of business. But I truly believe that HR people should be one of the last people to be leaving right now too, right? Because the world needs good HR now more than ever. And to help your organizations navigate through all these crises, you need great HR people, and great HR strategy to help the performance of your business. Because as much as we could go down a lot of different roads here today as to what HR can and should be doing to deal with some of these other crises in which we're in. At the end of the day, you can't do much help if you're not working there anymore, right? So nothing. Ultimately, at the end of the day, you need to ensure the financial viability and success of your business for your people so that you can continue to do the good HR work that needs to be done going forward. And so you have to ask yourself the question, like, why are HR people being let go? And, there can be various reasons for it, right? There is no simple answer to it. As I said, the business might be just downsizing across the board, across all functions, because they're in that bad financial shape. There's other people who, put their hand up and said, hey, you know what? If you're looking to downsize somebody, downsize me because I'm ready for the next thing, for that next challenge. It's a fantastic position to be in. And to those folks who have done that, I tip my hat to you. But I also know and have heard that there's just a lot of HR people that are being let go, period. And it's completely unnecessary. We didn't have to get here. We did not have to get here because we've been talking about this role as HR as a business partner now for decades, right? So I've been in the field for 26 years this year. And David Ulrich came out with HR Champions in 1997. And since then wrote many different books. 2017 came out with the HR competency model that talked about HR's core value proposition resides in being a strategic positioner, credible activist, and paradox navigator. It's about strategy, it's driving your business results. It's about credible activists, driving the people agenda, and being able to navigate that paradox. So we've all known this for a long time. But yet here we are, right? Where the HR function is still very much mired in more transactional and administrative duties, and its value is perceived that way. Whether that be fair or unfair, right or wrong, it is where it is. And on a previous episode, I talked about the HR value chain and the 4 levels at which HR can operate, right? 1 is just being an extra pair of hands at its most basic level. 2 is being a technical expert, and that is the realm in which a lot of HR people play. Level 3 is to identify and meet client needs. It's to be proactive, to come forward with HR solutions, business solutions, not being asked, not waiting, but going out and identifying and then coming forward with them to truly get to that level 4 to be a HR business partner. And so we didn't have to get here. And through my work that I've been doing with a lot of HR people and through Hacking HR here in Tampa Bay area, and also speaking with other people globally in HR, I hear a lot of HR people say, well, I get it. I like to do it, but my organization won't let me, or my senior leaders don't get it. And honestly, that's bullshit. Like, we really have to just call bullshit for what it is, and it's bullshit, because it's not their job. It's not their job to be able to identify what HR's value proposition is. It's your job. It's your job. It is your job. And you need to come forward with ideas because they don't know what they don't know. So if you're waiting for Godot, as the book was, you're going to be waiting forever. And then one day you're, could be a HR casualty on the downsizing heap or pile. And it's unnecessary. You don't need to do that. You don't need to wait for that to happen. And so what I want to talk about today is some ideas as to, and just share some of my personal experiences, not to brag at all, but to just show you that, it's really about the execution of these ideas, right? So we sort of read books, hear podcasts, watch lectures, go to live events, hear all these people speak, and get all these great ideas, get revved up. Yes, HR has to be a strategic business partner. And then what happens? We go back to the office or back to the job, and very little change, if any, happens for most people. And so, I sort of jokingly say that that's kind of like HR porn. It's kind of like HR porn, right? It might make you feel good in the moment, but you walk away with pretty much nothing. And so, once again, it doesn't have to be that way. And one of my favorite leadership lessons was from an Uber driver. And we sort of got into a conversation, and he shared this phrase with me that has really resonated, and it's sort of goes to my mind a lot, that there's a difference between movement and results. So, there's like activity, and then there's about results. And, a lot of, the HR function has been mired in activities, and it's not about activities. Activities are not adding value. It's about results. So I'm going to share with you today some, firsthand experiences not to brag, but to share, like, here's how I did it, right? And both working full-time as a HR professional and then also working as an HR consultant. And it's just to give you ideas, because ultimately what you're going to do is you're going to do the right thing for your business. And what I'm going to share with you might say, that's great, that's not going to work for me. That's not the point. The point is, it's about the mindset, and it's about taking risks, putting yourself out there, and the huge results that can happen for your organization and for your people. So first example that I'll share is one where when I was at Gap Inc., the Gap and its various changes of stores in Canada in the early 2000s. And when I first joined Gap, I was hired to start up the Old Navy brand in Canada because it was being launched, and to open up a 738,000 square foot distribution center. And I was the second person hired for that project. And I managed the whole startup of that project all the way through to completion, including hiring the management team. And when I joined at that time, Gap was like, oh my God, Gap is just absolutely crushing it, opening up stores left, right, and center. The stock was at $52 a share at one point. Just, nothing could go wrong. And then there was a mini recession in the early 2000s, as well as there were some issues within the organization around product. And we'll go into that into too much detail, but Gap was in serious trouble. And the stock price actually got down to as low as under $10 a share when I was there. So, in a very short period of time, going from $52 a share to less than $10 a share, that'll just give you an idea of how much financial trouble Gap Inc. Canada, Gap Inc. in general, I should say, was in during the time that I was there. So after I started up the Old Navy distribution center, is I moved over to the field. So I oversaw a team of 5 HR generalists, HR business partners, for all 3 brands, for all of our stores in Canada. And, I really wanted to look for ways that my team could, as a function, we could help the organization turn back around. So I spent a lot of time in the field and in the stores. I was probably out of the office at least 2-3 days a week, visiting various store locations, talking with managers, really sort of understanding what was happening. To then to think about ways that I could help. So one of the things that we had just launched at the time, Gap, was a fantastic sales service training program for all of our sales associates called the Threads of Seamless Service: friendly, helpful, knowledgeable, and quick. And we knew that our customers, that's what they wanted for their store experience, right? People who are friendly, helpful, knowledgeable, and they wanted to have their questions answered quickly. Friendly, helpful, knowledgeable, quick. So we had spent a lot of time corporately rolling this out, and beautifully done, great content, rolled it out to all of our stores, and it wasn't working. So, the knee-jerk reaction could have been, well, obviously that's not good training. We need to build another sales service training program because that one didn't work. And that made no sense to me. And in those conversations that I had, it became very evident to me that we had the sales service expectations beautifully outlined and, certainly rolled out to everybody in all store locations. The problem is that managers were not coaching to those expectations on the sales floor. We had very young managers running multi-million-dollar store locations who didn't know how to coach and give feedback. And that became clearly evident to me. So here's what I did. So I built a business case. Gap really didn't have the money at the time to do this, to roll out a leadership training program that was going to give all of our sales managers those coaching capabilities. And I tied it to 3 different business drivers: sales, product theft, because theft was also going up in our stores. And a lot of it, we had great policies, procedures. Again, we weren't coaching and holding people accountable to those expectations, and that's why it was happening. And lower management turnover. And I put an ROI number on it, that if we rolled out this program, that we would see a $8,000 per person ROI. And so no one asked me to build that case. No one asked me. But I saw the need, put myself out there, built a business case, took it to the president of the country, and they said yes. And we ended up rolling it out, and I could go into details to how we did that. But we measured the impact of it, and I worked directly with our finance group to get real metrics and data from each of our store locations. And there were other ways that we measure knowledge transfer, behavior change, et cetera. Again, I'd never done anything like that. I just picked up the book by Donald Kirkpatrick, read it, and said, yep, that makes sense. I think we can do that. Let's try it. And the net result was that we were able to prove demonstrably that we saw a $64,000 per person ROI from that program. And, it had a significant business impact. So here's where, I get agitated is, we talk about being a business partner, but yet it involves being insanely curious to really understand your business. It really means taking some risks, and it means putting yourself out there and, coming forward with new ideas. If you wait, like if I waited, then we wouldn't have done it and we wouldn't have seen the ROI from it. And so that's one example. The second example will be as a HR consultant. So I have a client who I've been operating as their fractional CHRO for the last 3 years now. And when they first approached us, it was to look for ways that we could help them with some, I would say, operational transactional things like their handbook and some other things. And in the conversations that I had with the CEO and some of the other partners there, really got them thinking very differently about what is the value of great HR and great people practices, and how does that relate back to your business strategy? And when I first started working with them, so they said, yes, Paul, we would love to have you come work with us. And I didn't start with HR stuff. Like, I didn't look at, okay, let's look at our HRM and let's look at our payroll practices and let's just jump right into that handbook. All right, that would be lower level HR activities. That's lesser HR value add. That's level 1, level 2 on my chain. So what I did is I started by facilitating a series of strategy meetings with all the partners to develop the long-term business strategy for the company and how we were going to get there. And then as a result, and after that work was completed, started to, quickly address some of their pain points. A lot of them had to do around hiring, talent acquisition. And so we were able to get that in a much better position in a relatively quick period of time. And then I built the HR roadmap of all the other functional aspects of areas of HR and how they're going to support the business strategy, right? How they're going to support the business strategy, not the HR standalone strategy. It's an HR roadmap that supports the business strategy. And again, it's not rocket science stuff. And again, I'm not sharing this because I'm trying to brag. Actually, I kind of feel guilty about it because it's pretty damn simple. It's really not that hard to do. It's not. You just need to start, and you can't wait. And as an HR professional, you cannot wait for others to see the light to give you permission to start to operate in that way. You need to go build a business case yourself. You need to be insanely curious about how your business operates and look for ways in which you can add tremendous value to it. That is how you elevate the HR function. And, it's going to be a hell of a lot harder for organizations right now to let go of that level of HR support than it is the transactional and the administrative side of HR, isn't it? It sure is. Now, I get it. Sometimes senior teams, even though you tried, they don't get it and you're not able to make that shift. Okay, that's an important point that we need to recognize. Well, at least you tried. At least you know that you did the right thing. At least you also learned and gained some fantastic skills and capabilities that are only going to help you in that next position by doing so. But if you just sit and wait for someone else to hand you the golden key to do it, it's a bullshit excuse. And let's just call it for what it is. So I hope you're not doing that. And I hope that you're looking right now for ways that you can focus on the things that I think matter most, which are talent, leadership, strategy, and culture. And it really first starts with your business strategy. Do you have one? Do you have an HR strategy that supports it? Did you have one? But now, because of all of these crises that we're in, how does that need to change? What does that look like? Maybe the HR 3-year plan goes out the window right now, and it's more of a 6 to 12 month plan as to how you're going to help your business succeed, or at least survive, hopefully thrive, but at least survive during this time period, right? Instead of just focusing on HR functional aspects of sort of what we do and or the HR strategy stand alone. It has to be supporting your business strategy and, making sure you have the right talent and the right leadership, and that's an important thing right now. I think it's huge. So we've asked leaders to make a fundamental shift in how they lead and manage their teams. There's a lot of leaders that now have had to make that pivot to managing remotely. What are you doing to actually support them? And it's not some boring, stale e-learning module on your LMS that you're going to push out to them to say, hey, watch this, and we've checked the box. Now you have these skills to manage people remotely, right? It's much more than that. Really, it has to do with them showing up with the right leadership capabilities, and also dialing up their emotional intelligence is really critical, I think, for all leaders and teams right now, managing remotely, because this is not going away anytime soon, even after the health crisis, right? So we've made that fundamental shift. So what are you doing to help your leaders? What are you doing to support your culture? So people are afraid, they're uncertain, for their jobs or for their health, for others. What are we doing to really address some of these other issues around diversity, race, and inclusion? And these are things that matter, and really comes down to having open, two-way, honest conversations and dialogues with your people in a planful way. The bigger the organization, the more planful you need to be about it. Those are things right now that are low-hanging fruit for anybody who's out there in HR, certainly as an HR business partner, to help shape and drive that conversation around those people-related topics. So I shared 2 examples with you before, and I'll share a third example. And it's something that we're focused on right now at HR Soul to help clients. And those last issues that I talked around talent, leadership, and culture are the people aspects of the function. And we have to navigate that paradox, but it's also about your business. And I will tell you that for most industries, for most organizations right now, their salespeople are in dire shape, and their sales funnel is in dire shape, right? There's fewer deals being created, budgets are frozen, potential customers are not responsive, longer sales cycle, number of sales call plummeting, very little to show for it. But once again, it's about how can you improve the effectiveness of your sales and marketing teams and your business development efforts, because that ultimately is going to be the main business driver to help your organization thrive and survive. And, I'm not asking you to be a sales expert and how to train sales professionals on how to cold call and build their sales funnel. But what you are is you're a people expert. And, there is an element around emotional intelligence for sales professionals right now that I think is really critical. 2016 study done by HubSpot. Top 3 things buyers want from their sales representative. 69%, the number one thing, listen to my needs. Number 2, 61%, is not pushy. Number 3, tied with number 2 at 61%, provides relevant information. So, for salespeople, it's really important to have a really strong level of self-awareness in terms of how they're showing up with all of their prospects. Where are their prospects at? So that level of social awareness and self-management, self-control, because probably many of them are under a lot of pressure right now to close deals and to generate sales revenue. And so it's also understanding where are they in the sales cycle. And for most salespeople, they're going to be at the end, right? They want to close. They want to close today, sign the contract. But your buyers, potential customers, are not there. So where am I as a sales professional? Where are my buyers? And what can I do to help guide them along their sales and customer experience journey? And that really requires a great level of self-control, self-awareness, and self-confidence to be able to do that. And so there's an idea that we're out there right now helping clients is to help build the emotional awareness, or the emotional intelligence, I should say, of their business professionals. And so that may be a solution that works for you. Maybe it's not. That's okay. That's not my point. My point is that, you need to be insanely curious and be looking for ways. Like, you should be spending a lot of time right now with your sales and marketing teams to really truly understand what are the dynamics, what are the challenges that they're facing, and then look for ways, right? Like I did at Gap, to come back and forward with solutions. It could be EQ, it could be different things, it could be team dynamics, it could be a lot of different things, ways of working. It doesn't matter. The point is, you need to be out there to understand what's happening with them, and then come forward with ideas, solutions. That's what they need from you right now. That's what good HR looks like. That's what good HR in some ways has always looked like, or should have always looked like. And yet here we are. So I hope that this today has been a bit of a motivation for you, really, more than anything else. That is my hope, and that's my wish. And by me sharing some personal examples as to how I've been doing it and how I'm currently doing it, is not to brag. It's not a sales pitch at all, actually. It's really just to show you that if I can do it, you can do it, right? But it really just comes down to a fundamental choice of, am I going to put myself out there? Am I going to take some risks? Calculated risks, but still take some risks. Am I going to be that voice that's going to help to navigate that paradox between what's right for our business and what's right for our people, and go out and make it happen, right? It's not about movement, it's about results. And you have a tremendous opportunity. Every HR professional, doesn't matter what level you're at too, don't let that hold you back. Don't let that hold you back, because when I was at Gap, I was in a mid-level role, right? So yeah, I'd been in the field for a little while, but I was not head of HR, right? So don't let that hold you back, right? So when you add tremendous value, people will recognize it, they'll see it, and you'd be amazed at how much of an impact that you can have if you just put the time and the effort to do it. So I'm going to read out a few comments. Looks like there's a few comments before I sign off here. Lots of changes. Flexibility will be very important. Yes, I completely agree, Helena. It is. All right. I just kicked myself out of the studio, so that's not good. So we'll keep going here. I just did the wrong swipe on my mouse. So my bad on that one. I apologize. And I may have even lost some of the other comments. So I also read a comment that, someone had, had been let go because HR in their organization can be, or was viewed as dispensable. So we can't let that happen. We can't let that happen again. And there are so many great thought leaders, great people out there putting out content on LinkedIn that you cannot just let that go. You need to put these ideas into action. Wendy Perez is saying, "Hey, Paul, do I have a standard template that I use to draft HR strategy?" Yep. Wendy, reach out to me and I'd be happy to share with you some of the ideas, some of the tools and the frameworks that I use. So please feel free to do that. Victor says, "We are being challenged to be the voice of employees by refining the new employee well-being." I completely agree, Victor. We can't do that though if HR is being let go. Right. So we need to also understand that fundamentally that we need to drive business results, and those actions that we take and those strategies that we enact will be the things that will allow us to also work on some of these other issues that are really critical to our people right now, such as well-being. But we can't do it if we don't have a job. We can't do it if we're not inside the organization. So we really need to be navigating that paradox. What's good for the business, what's good for our people, and being able to do both, walk and chew gum at the same time. So I may have lost some of the other comments, and that's my bad. And I apologize. And I will not do the left swipe on my mouse anymore. Thank you for your time today. We'd love to hear your thoughts, comments in the thread below if you are watching this after the LinkedIn Live. And really, I just hope you get agitated, because it's not just about, listening to this and saying, yes, Paul, I agree 100%, and going back to what you were doing before. You need to take action. It's about execution. It's not about ideas. There's a lot of great ideas out there. I just shared some of them with you. There's others. It's about execution of those ideas that translate into results. That's the agitation. That is my hope, and that's my wish for everybody out there today. Thank you for your time.